All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first SIP educational talk. Today, we welcome Dillon Livers, owner of Oak and Spirit Consulting, and Patrick Meredith, Distillery Manager at Jane Distilling. All right. So today, we will be going over the top 10 best practices to successfully operate your distillery. And just to note, these top 10 are more of what you should always consider versus a ranking of importance for your distillery. So, just to make some introductions here, Dylan and Patrick, thank you for speaking today. Um, would you both like to tell us a little bit about yourselves before we officially start?
Yeah. Again, my name is Patrick Meredith. I'm the distillery manager for Jane Distilling. Been in the bourbon industry now for going on 17 years. Started with Jim Beam Brands as an operator in production. Right before I transitioned over to Maker's Mark as an operator in the distillery for production there. Started wanting to know more and took a liking to leading people, and that's where I got into leadership there. Spent my last 11 years at Maker's Mark as their distillery supervisor and senior supervisor, and now I'm here managing this distillery at Potter Jane, and loving every minute of it. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. Dylan?
Well, my name is Dillon Livers. I am the owner of Oak and Spirit Consulting. I'm located here in Shelbyville, Kentucky. Quick background of myself: I'm a graduate of Eastern Kentucky University with chemistry and forensic science degrees. Started in the industry in 2014 as a lab tech at Buffalo Trace. Worked my way up into production management. Worked there for a total of 7 years before transitioning to Four Roses Distillery, where I did distillery management there for 4 more years. The whole time kind of taking into effect everything from grain to glass to chemistry side to troubleshooting, everything in between. Even assisting a lot in quality as well for blending and single barrel picking as well. Then with my current adventure right now with Oak and Spirit Consulting, it's an all-encompassing distillery consulting, everything from grain procurement all the way to blending and master distiller and advisory services, and all things in between like efficiency optimization, quality optimization, troubleshooting, distillery evaluation, editorial, you name it. I'm glad to do it.
Awesome, Dylan. Thank you. Also, my background, I should introduce myself. I'm Gretchen Jones. I have a malt background, formerly with Malt Europe, and now here with Spirits Industry Professionals. Lots of beer, lots of bourbon, whiskey background with the Malt World. So, welcome everyone. Appreciate you joining us. I guess without further ado, we could get started here. Patrick, would you like to kick us off here? Top 10 best practices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So just getting into the industry and now managing a distillery on my own now. One of my top 10, this would be my top five right now. I know Dylan's going to share his, but just it sounds simple, but I think a lot of people just, they don't understand and they don't think about it, but just knowing the equipment and what normal looks like, especially in the distillery and the granary. With my background, I started out on the ground floor operating the equipment. It's gave me a huge benefit in coming here rather than just being a new individual in a distillery and just saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to manage this distillery, or I'm going to be a master distiller for this distillery. You really need to know the equipment, how it works, how it's supposed to work to be effective. It helps you be an effective manager for your team. And simply just knowing how to operate the equipment, it just puts your mind at ease, and it makes things a lot easier to be successful and have a good startup. Coming into this new startup, it was my first startup, but I had previous experience with the equipment. It was just like second nature. Of course, you never know. Dylan would say the same thing with a startup. You just never know what you're going to end up with. You know, you could have programming issues. or equipment issues. But the better you know that equipment, the better it's going to help you. And then really just to expand on that, being able to operate the equipment. I spent 10 years operating distillery equipment at Maker's Mark while doing supervisory work. It really helped me out here. I can take over for the guys and operate their equipment if they can't do it. And if there's something they're troubleshooting with, they can at least look to me and ask me questions about it, and I can give them some answers. It makes it super beneficial. One of the other things I'd like to talk about is just when you invest, talking about team members, when you invest in those team members, particularly with my situation here at Potter Jane, we wanted to make sure that we really invested time in searching for the correct team to do this. It is a startup, and we wanted to make sure that we did this right the first time. I know that's easier said than done, but we took a lot of time just investing in looking for the best people that we could put in these positions. And it doesn't just mean, hey, we need distillery experience. You know, a lot of industries are like, got to have distillery experience. You need a degree. You need this. You know, we wanted, obviously experience is a plus, but you want people that are capable of doing the job. We actually have 2 operators that are outside of the industry, especially in the distillery itself, but they are very capable, and they've been some of the best operators I've ever worked with. My team alone, I've just got a team of 4 right now. It's 2 leads and 2 operators, and it's the best team I've ever had. And I fully believe it was just putting in the dedication and scouting out the best people I could for this position and not rushing into it. Because I think a lot of industries will rush to fill that position and worry about it later. Well, then you've already started off on the wrong foot, and it just doesn't, it's not good for your business, and it's not good for the morale either. I'll roll out with my third, which is training. You really have to put forth the effort and invest time in training for your employees. With me, I don't necessarily want someone that's just going to come in and push a button and just call it a day and just say, you know what, that's why I'm doing it. There's really no rhyme or reason behind it. But it's more important to know the what behind the why and invest in the time and the training so that these operators and your team understand why they're doing what they're doing. So fulfilling their needs and understanding what they need from us and from myself as far as training, or is that additional schooling? Is that distillation science teachings? It's all the above. It's very important. That's the biggest thing with my team. I'm continuously asking them, you know, what do you need from me? What can we do to make your job better, make you understand more, and make you feel like, you know, you're doing the right thing and understand everything you're doing. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure Dillon has a lot of experience with this, coming from Four Roses and distillery management. When you have operators that understand what they're doing and why, it's just more even flow, and you have less hiccups, and you have more dedication tied into what they're doing every day.
Right.
Right now, my operators, you know, I do have 2 experienced lead operators, and they're just, it's crazy how, coming from where I've been in supervisory and just having to make sure people are doing things right. Not that they did a bad job, but you just not micromanage either, but you feel like you just kind of have to watch them every now and then, and you want to teach them stuff, but sometimes they don't want to learn. So you can't really force people to want to learn something, because then it's just not going to latch on. But I've been very fortunate here, and it's worked out really well.
Patrick, would you say you've hired people with no distilling experience whatsoever?
So let's say it's 50-50.
Yeah.
So I've got lead operators that, you know, my first shift lead operator has the most distillery experience and was actually in a leadership position. And then the other 3 operators I have had some exposure. One, 0 exposure to distilling, but was super capable. And that was actually the individual I made a lead. And, you know, in the beginning, I had this person saying, why in the world would you make me a lead? And then a year into it, everybody's like, okay, I see why. It's not necessarily you have to have distillery experience, because there may come issues with that too. There's a lot of things that you've got to unlearn. I did it myself. I've learned a lot of things through the years, but there's a lot of things I had to unlearn as well. And that's the biggest thing right now, is making sure that I move forward with the best knowledge for my team that I can, and make sure it's accurate. Like we talked in the beginning, there wasn't a whole lot of distillery talks back then. You had to either learn it on your own, and it maybe it wasn't even right at that time, and people just weren't willing to help you, and you just kind of learned from failure, and that's where the change needed to be. And when I first got into leadership, that's exactly where I pivoted and thought, what, these people need to know just as much as me, if not more. And that's what I strive for.
I think the why is a good thing too. Like, nobody likes to go into any job and be like, okay, do this. And then you're like, well, why am I doing this? It's like, well, because I told you to.
Yeah.
Like, I always like myself whenever the guys would be like, okay, so we're doing this. Let's say we're trialing, a different grain. Well, why are we doing this? Well, to diversify our supply chain, because, COVID really exposed a lot of supply chain gaps here. We just want to make sure in this method that our new grain supplier is going to be to the same quality and same standard as what we already have. Oh, okay. Or why are we doing this experiment? Well, we want to see what this does in this situation. Oh, okay. Yeah, I get that. And I think it also gives a lot of good buy-in with your operator too, that like, well, hey, boss, like, I'm seeing this, like, is there any way we can do that? And yeah, I mean, we'll throw that out on the docket too.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, there were so many times when I first started in this industry. That's just how I'm wired. I always want to know why. And very rarely did I get the why. It was either, I don't know, we just do it that way. That was the biggest thing that I got, is, I don't know, that's just how we do it. It just happens sometimes. Or what's going on here? Why is it still running so crazy? What's going on with my reflux? I have no idea. It's just how it happens sometimes. I'm like, no, man, there's got to be something more. And it actually took years to actually find the individual that, when you asked why, they were like, well, let me tell you. And I was like, oh, and I love it. And there's not enough of that. And I don't claim to know everything for sure, but if I don't know it, I'm going to say, I don't know. I'll find out. I'm not going to just say, oh yeah, it's this, but yeah, the why is huge. And a lot of more people would ask it if they knew they would actually get the answer.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. That's awesome. My fourth thing that I would like to talk about is super, super important. And that is just the importance of your grain supplier and their quality. Just knowing who your grain supplier is and being able to hold them accountable. You can get grain from anywhere. I mean, it's Kentucky. There's grain coming from all over the place. But and I'll tell you this, if you're willing to take in poor quality grain, they're going to send it to you every time. And you cannot have a good turnout if you're bringing bad grain in. It's not going to work. You're not going to have good distillate. You're not going to have a good clean system. So you're going to have bacteria. Dillon knows all about this. You get bad grain in the system, it's almost like you can't outrun it.
It's Pandora's box, man. You can't get it closed. You
can't. You either have to clean it out and shut down, or you're just, if you're happy with running that way, I guess you can. If you don't want to have good yields, good flavors, it's just not good practice.
Well, and it, like you said, it turns into the abominable snowman down the road. It is not just a snowball into an avalanche. Like I know the big hot button thing now is geosmin, from the mitigation of wet grain, and it does not come out. It is detectable in parts per trillion.
Yeah.
And it passes through distillation, and it gets worse and worse and worse through aging.
Yep.
And it all starts at your grain quality and your catches in the very beginning.
Absolutely does. And that kind of rolls back into the training. So not just operations wise and operating the distillery, mash cookers, distillation, it's, training your team to be able to detect things that shouldn't be there in the grain. Obviously, like you said, geosmin's the biggest thing you get. It's a distiller's nightmare. It is awful. And sometimes the bad thing about it, depending on what kind of equipment you have, sometimes you might not detect it on sensory. Right now, where we're standing as a startup, our noses are our best defense right now. So sensory is huge. And the team's been trained on sensory, on what looks normal with the grains. This isn't just what looks normal in operations. It's what looks normal on grains, what looks normal on mash cooking, what is a normal look like in this process.
Yeah. And like, even to add to that, Patrick, like having a lot of people trained on it, because something that I learned working in the sensory lab at Buffalo Trace is certain people can detect certain things, and some people are completely nose blind to it.
Absolutely.
Like, I know people that were completely nose blind to geosmin, and then some folks, I mean, they would start gagging at the point that, at the very most minute amount of it. But, you just have to have a diverse team. One is good, two is better, three. I mean, if you can have just a ton of people that can double check, triple and quadruple check, it's just, kind of your security blanket for down the road.
Yep. No, I absolutely agree. We do the same thing here. We've got a certain individual that's so sensitive to geosmin, and it's like, he's like, yeah, I smell it. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? I'm like, man. But our quality manager, he's great. He's put together different scenarios at different parts per billion on the geosmin, and had all the operators, and we know exactly what operator can smell it the best. And some of them just, they're like, man, I don't really get it. So like you said, some are sensitive to it, some are not. Some are more sensitive to sulfur compounds, some are geosmin and everything. But it's huge. Your training in grain quality is huge. That's the very beginning of your process. Like I said, you get bad grain in, you got bacteria, it goes through the whole process. It's terrible. But being said, just the grain suppliers, trusting your grain suppliers, and, whether that's with a site visit and making sure you're holding them accountable. Because if you're not getting clean grain in, you need to find out, what's going on. Maybe you're getting a lot of cobs and a lot of stocks and just a lot of trash. And making sure that they're communicating with you, when are we hitting new crop, because, once they harvest, you're still finished out, last year's crop, and you may notice some degradation in your grain. Maybe you're not yielding as good because your starch quality is just not there. You can definitely tell when you're in new grain. I can tell you that right now. And we're in new crop year grain right now. So things are really good. We're running clean. And it's looking really good. So number 5 for me, I know it seems like I'm talking fast, but I can elaborate on this as long as I can.
No.
Yeah. And so going from grain quality and talking about bacteria, which I know Dillon, he'll weigh in on that later, but just running your operation clean is huge. There's, I don't have experience with a lot of other industries, but I just hear a lot of things, just things we do different here and trying to run clean. Because the biggest thing for me is if we've got downtime, or if there's time that we can do hot water mashes and we can clean the system, we're doing it anytime we can. It's sanitize. That's the biggest thing you can do. If we ever see a dip in yield, we know that something's happened somewhere along the line. Maybe even in the most streamlined distillery, there may be a little dead leg or something that you just don't think about, but it doesn't take much, and you'll throw your system off. But running clean is super important. Making sure that you're sterilizing the best you can on your fermentation, even your cooks. We do caustic. We don't do it so much, but it's important, every now and then, to take your time and say, what, let's do a caustic wash and make sure we can get rid of some of this organic material and just clean everything up. And it makes a huge difference. Makes a huge difference. Running clean to me is probably, it's one of the most important things. Along with incoming grain quality, you need to make sure that your system's clean. Otherwise, you're just kind of beating a dead horse there. You're not going to get the quality distillate. You're not going to get the yield. But yeah, so, and that rolls right back into training. We've got a training program here. All the operators know, hey, steaming, sanitize. They know how to do everything. They know it's very important.
Hmm. Yeah, I can attest to that. Uh, especially like where I came from with Four Roses. I mean, it was always, well, actually, both distilleries really. The idea of being sanitary and making CIP a very big part of your distilling, I guess, regimen as you're going along. I mean, is paramount to distillate quality. Caustic, once a week, sometimes, just depends on how hard you're running.
Yeah.
Through all your cooking lines, all your mash lines, if you have the ability to run it through, your back set as well,
Mhm.
that's great to do as well. To have a steam sparge on all of your clean or all your dead, I wouldn't say dead, like and not in use mash lines. I mean,
Right.
just bacteria is your biggest enemy, and it's one of the most controllable things inside of the distillery.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the biggest thing, we're not perfect. We've got a nice streamlined distillery, but there's been things that, I've got a list of things that I would love to do just to help benefit CIP and making sure that we're running even cleaner than we are now. Um, it's it's super, super huge. And depending on, you know, caustic is good. We try to limit it. I know depending on how you're running. If you're running 7 days a week, like you said, the volume of caustic's probably needed a little bit more. We've got the perk here where we shut down every day. So yeah, we're cold starting in the morning, but we have airtime. We have dry time on the still. Everything cools down overnight. We've got 8 hours every single day that everything is just shut down and you get that dry time. I think it really helps. It's super important to understand that even something as simple as a good still wash on water for 30 minutes is like a life change for that still. It
Yeah.
just really it revamps the copper. It really recharges it. You don't necessarily always have to do caustic. If you're worried about wear and tear on your equipment, a good wash is just as easy and it's beneficial too.
Hmm.
Patrick, I feel like you really set yourself up for success with Potter Jane
Yeah,
Distilling. I mean, these points that you're making sounds like you're able to have the control that you need to succeed.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It is, and I guess the biggest thing for me is I think about it. I'm super glad that I got to get the experience beforehand, and not everybody's that lucky. I
Mm,
feel very fortunate that I actually started out as an operator and lived through the battles that you can have, and troubleshoot some of those issues because it's made it so much easier for me now as a leader to help my team and to make sure that I'm effective as a manager because
mhm,
it's very hard to manage something that you don't know anything about. It's just you can't be effective.
mhm.
Uh, it's just I've already lived that. We've probably all been in the situation where maybe the person that's helping lead you is a great person. They're great, but they just don't know anything about what you're telling them. They don't understand the process. They don't understand the equipment. It's super hard. It's super hard to manage effectively if you don't know that, and the people understand that. You might not get as much respect that way either. Uh,
Hmm.
I know Dylan. He knows all about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Respect is going to make you or break you in a distillery.
Right. Yes.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, oh, thank you, Patrick. Any thing you want to say about Potter Jane before we move
Yeah.
to Dylan?
For sure. Yeah. We're and I should have said it in the beginning, but we are in Springfield, Kentucky. I think I skipped over that part. So we're here in Springfield, Kentucky, first distillery in Washington County. I mean, to make distillate, and we've got aged bourbon right now. We've got two warehouses. They're 24,000 barrel rick houses, 6 stories. Uh, got an awesome team. I mean, everything is really it's crazy that it's already been a year since I've been here. It's like a blink of an eye. It's like a year ago we were all sitting in construction trailers trying to figure out, okay, you know, you can only make so many spreadsheets before you realize when you get in here and be like, okay, about 50% of these I'm going to use now that I see how this is going. But Um, Again, it's been a blast. It's the best decision I've made in my life, and working for great people, Denny Potter and Jane Bowie. They're awesome people, great leaders, and it was a no brainer for me. I left a good career and just was ready to be on board here, and it's awesome. It's been life changing for sure. But yeah, we're running 5 days a week right now, two shifts. We alternate back and forth from one shift to two shifts. So we're just producing what we need to, and that's it. No excess. A lot of exciting things in the future. So yeah, it's been awesome. Really good.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. And
Thank
we
you.
we do have some questions if you can stick around a little bit.
Okay.
But just want to move to Dillon. Dillon, you have 5 best practices as well.
Yeah, I do. Also to talk about Patrick's team, they're great folks. Everybody at Potter Jane, they have a dream team over there. It's the A team for sure.
Thank you. Thank
I'm
you.
big fans of them anyway.
Well, we're big fans of you too, man. All of it.
Well, thank you. All right. Well, to kind of elaborate and kind of touch on some stuff, my 5 things that I really think is important in distillery operation in my time. The first one, kind of talking about quality. Now, a lot of folks will say that quality is up there with safety as far as people in production not liking them. If you want to kind of think about it that way, but really they're there for your benefit. They quite really are, especially in the chemistry side of things. If you have a analytical chemist on site, or if you have the ability to send samples off, that could be your greatest advocate in your distillery for pinpointing quality, also figuring out what's working. If you can send GC samples off of like correct or LC or GC samples off for, your fermentation samples, for, your mashing samples, just to understand like what your fingerprint looks like when everything's running right. And especially in white dog. If you can get enough samples and a portfolio together to understand what your chromatogram should look like per your recipes, that can definitely tell you, especially in the next point of it for troubleshooting. Say that you're doing your sensory, your organoleptics, and all of a sudden, ooh, like this is off. This is sour. This is, it smells like cheese. It smells like dirt. Like what is going on here? And through those chromatograms, you can kind of understand when you see a peak at, a certain point that it's like, oh, well, it's this compound. Well, say it's butyric acid. Okay, well, butyric acid is mostly found in fermentation from, lack of cleaning, or that there has been bacteria that has gotten the bad bacteria that's gotten into your fermentation, which has now stressed your yeast, and now you're carrying that over. So then from there, you can troubleshoot in your distillery setting to be like, okay, well, we need to look at a couple things. If you're using backset, need to look at the backset lines, check your pHs there. If you need to run LC on that as well to just see what is going on with that, what your acids are for that. If that comes clean, then you can go back even further. What does my grain have on it? What's my water quality looking like? Doing, sensory and analytical chemistry for that. And this all can like help you in numerous ways by doing the chemistry approach and using your quality team as another tool on your Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You talked about, it's interesting, Dylan. You talked about the back set.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't understand that, it's just a continuous loop. If you get a bad fermenter that's been contaminated with bacteria, and you're reusing that back set, if anybody has the chance, a lot of times, it all, like I said, it all depends on how much you're running. Some distilleries are smaller, and maybe you only have a fermenter. Maybe that's the fermenter you're using for your back set the current day, which, in some cases, that's what we have to do.
Right.
But if you get a fermenter that tests bad, the acidity's high, it had some contamination. Well, if there's a way you can not use that back set to put it back in the system, it's always best. And that's another thing that, could be implemented in the building process. Always think of that on the forefront to make sure that, hey, if something happens, we can change it up. We don't have to use that batch. If something happened with that fermenter, we understand it, but let's not continue to use it and it just keeps going. You never get rid of it, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and you know all about this since you just started, but with like distillery setup, like, nobody wants to go into this with like a pessimist mind, but always keep in the back of your head like a DEFCON 4 sort of situation where we have to get rid of everything. How do we have our outs if, say, we have the worst case scenario?
Right.
So kind of a thing with that too.
Yeah.
Something to kind of play off of Patrick that I think is very important is networking. Now, networking in the traditional sense, everybody kind of thinks like, oh, well, this is just meeting, rubbing elbows with people, getting a beer or whatever. But really, networking can pay in dividends down the road. So like, say with suppliers, you constantly stay in contact with them, checking in on them, even something as, mundane as like calling around the holidays, as, telling them, Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving, whatever it may be, just checking in on them, creating that friendship, creating that dynamic, understanding what their needs are, how you can help them. And they can pay off in a lot of ways. Like, I know whenever I've ran into shortages before on grains and we're coming up kind of short, I can get on the phone and be like, hey, man, like any way at all, you can like get me a load in here today. I know this is very short, notice. And it's like, oh yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And, even with other distilleries, and other, facets and farmers and anything else that you can think on, to understand your supply chain in and out and create relationships even outside of your own distillery, I think really is beneficial, not just for the running, but especially with being friends with other distillers. You don't have the blinders on, because I know, anytime that I worked at a distillery, you kind of get into your mindset of, okay, this is how our distillery runs. But for the benefit of distilling in general, having that outside perspective to be like, oh, like, no, that would work. And this is how it works for them. Well, I can take a few of those things, apply it to my process, and be able to benefit from that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Just how many times, if you can count, Dylan, have we been bailed out by farmers to get us grain in whenever we don't have an?
Oh my God,
it's huge. I mean, yeah, I love that you said that, because I've got good relationships with everybody we're getting grain from, and not only myself but my operators. My operators have relationships. They could call them up anytime, and they're always here. And that's the drivers as well. You got to have good contact with the drivers, because sometimes they can help you out. And we've been very fortunate. I mean, working with Rick and like we have, it's been great. You've got to know who you're working with, and that's the relationship. You build those relationships, and they help you for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, it's even like little things too. Like, I know in Kentucky, like, we're about ready to start getting snow. Like, call your drivers up or call your like grain supplier up and be like, hey, like, we're good on grain for like the first couple hours of the day if we just want to wait for these roads to get better.
Yes.
And just kind of saving them on that, and just little things like that, and building relationships. Don't think think about your distillery. You've got to run, you got to make money, but think about your suppliers, because you take care of them, they're going to take care of you.
For sure. Absolutely.
Is that like in Kentucky? Sorry. So in Kentucky,
no, you're fine.
Is that something like all distilleries are worried about, is weather? Like,
I think Kentucky, there's a guy here, he says it's so funny. And I think I've heard it before, but it's, for some reason it feels new to me, but he's like, if you don't like the weather in Kentucky, just give it an hour.
Yeah.
The weather's nuts here, but yeah, I mean, it seems like you never know. Like today, it's supposed to be a snowy mix, and we just had almost 70-degree weather last week. It's insane. Yeah. So yeah, it seems like Kentucky's weather is just, it's nuts. So
it is. I mean, in my past life, like, I would hear about the weather from Rick all the time in Kentucky. Things were going. So
yeah. For sure.
Yeah, it could go anywhere from tornadoes to 5 feet of snow to locusts to the plague. I mean, it really can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great. Yeah, and like he said, the drivers, they're hauling a big load of grain. Nobody wants to be on the road with a semi truck full of raw material
Boy.
and trying to drive around into a distillery and then unloading. You got to think they got to get it out of there. So, I mean, depending on your unload setup, it could be pretty terrible.
And then it comes right back to quality there. Like you're
Yeah.
unloading in the snow and it's out in the open or rain. It's like, oh God, here goes our moisture. Like, and
Yeah.
then everything that goes to, I mean, that just turns into a fire sale at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bacteria nightmare.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I gotcha. Sorry. Go ahead, Dillon.
All good. So my third point would be differentiating yourself in the market. Would kind of be a big thing for a distillery. Now I know this would kind of go into sales sort of side of things, but I know from what I've seen with people, it's like, oh well, we can't do Kentucky as good as Kentucky, for my out of state clients, and it's like, well, why would you want to do that? Kentucky's going to do Kentucky as good as Kentucky. Say that you're in Indiana. Why don't you look into the history of Indiana and the terroir of Indiana and see how that plays into and what can make that, your thing? So, like, say you're in the Pacific Northwest, like, oh, well, this bourbon is just not like how it is in Kentucky. It's like, well, it shouldn't. By if you look longitudinally and latitudinally, it really should not. So like look, and that is the beauty if you are a small time distiller or like a mid-size, is like, look, why don't you just think outside the box? Like think outside like two distillation methods. Like the weather that you're getting is extremely similar to Scotland. How do they distill? What are their proofs? How are they fermenting? Like keep it within the confines of bourbon if you're wanting to do that, but maybe do it like more so on the fermentation and distillation side of what you would see there. Just like giving an example, not saying to do that, but like kind of think a little bit outside the box because we have kind of using the analogy like everybody, there's a bunch of Oreos out on the market, but you're going to try to come in with a chocolate sandwich cookie with cream in the middle. Like, okay, we know everybody's got that. So how are you going to differentiate yourself as a brand and as a product out there in distilling?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally. Story is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Uh,
I really enjoy tasting whiskey, but I also enjoy the story always.
mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then kind of my fourth point that I want to say in your distillery is be strategic in your PM and your upgrades. Your maintenance team is there to help you, and coordinating on a weekly basis, if not monthly and yearly, just sitting down with them, if not daily, weekly, sitting down with them and being like, okay, like, where are we with equipment? What's stuff looking like right now? Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, this pump is roaring pretty good. I think a bearing's going out on it. Okay, well, how long do you think it'll hold on for? Well, it should, given like the vibration analysis we've done on this, should last another week. Okay, well, we can plan a shutdown at this point to be able to fix this. It's not going to cost us anything as far as downtime because we're already cleaning up and we can get this swapped out. So then while we're up and going, it's not going to hurt us at all. And then same with like summer shutdowns and being strategic as far as like new equipment or equipment upgrades, like seeing what the low hanging fruit is and what is giving you the most pain in the hind end for, you're running like, okay, well, this thing keeps shutting us down. Do we need to look at replacing this with something new? Do we need to replace it and then add redundancy to it to where we can just flop over to like a new motor or pump?
Mm-hmm.
Or just like outright, is it even like huge investments that we need to be like, okay, well, we know this boiler is just absolutely giving us fits. Can't keep a light on it. Can't keep anything. It's, we're getting terrible steam quality. Like we just need a new boiler. And then like planning that, with your C suite, if you have that, or your ownership on what the budgetary needs to be and the timeline to be able to effectively get all your PMs and all your upgrades done so you can keep the most uptime while you're there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. You hit it on the head, man. Redundancy in this industry and any industry is it's not always achievable for some places, but if you can have redundancy and have extra parts and extra pumps and motors, that way things can be repaired right away, and it's not just a simple breakdown and you're out of the game, and you only got one mash pump, you don't have a backup. So once that's done, you're done. You're done for the
Mhm.
day,
Yeah.
or the week. And PMs, I mean, your equipment's only as good as what the life is through the PM, because
Mhm.
if you don't take care of your equipment, it's definitely not going to take care of you and your operation. Uh, our maintenance manager here, I give him kudos. He hit it out of the park with the PMs, and it's just, he was in the same scenario. He wanted to make sure that when we did this, we did it right. And he had the chance to do that, because a lot of times you go back and forth to different companies or industries, and they've already got a plan in place. Well, he got to strategically put this together, and we've got like monthly or weekly PMs, daily PMs. I get emails for everything that they're PMing, and it's awesome. So there's a schedule. The maintenance individuals, they'll go by, they get the email, they know what needs to be PM'd and what time. So there's a good. It's good to have things that are taken care of, because
Yeah.
they last a lot longer that way, don't they?
Yeah, and I mean, I know your previous experience where you were in an older distillery, man, and it was like
Gosh.
reactionary maintenance,
Oh yeah.
which nobody wants that, to where it's like, oh, hey, this thing broke down, everything's on fire and everybody's waiting for it. It's just an awful feeling. But to
Yeah.
go from reactionary maintenance to preventative maintenance, which everybody's trying to get to the preventative maintenance point, but what we're all wanting to be is in the predictive maintenance, to where it's like,
Yes.
we have this down on a dead schedule. We know that after a year, we need to replace this part, these things on it, upgrade all the couplings, do everything that you need to do to get to that predictive point, to where you have it just on a list, whether it be, an Excel sheet, like programs like Limble and stuff like that, to keep all your maintenance in a row, and just be able to go down the list and have your stuff running, because that's the life of it there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. And then my last one, I would say, is keeping your heading and your goals for your company at the forefront. As I think anybody that has been awake for the past, I don't know, day in the spirits and distilling market understands that we are in a correction and a slowdown. And I think that it's important for people to understand what your core values are in your distillery, and what your mission statement is, and what you are going to accomplish, to keep that at the forefront. Because I think that a lot of people can get lost in the weeds of like, oh, well, we got to do this and this just to stay afloat, which, that's a big part of it, to keep, making money and keep a inflow of money, but at the same time, not compromising, your mission statement, what your goal is, and what your niche is. I think that that's a really big thing that some people get lost in the weeds on, that they're just trying to make that capital and not sticking to their guns.
Yep.
And I think that that's like what gains you kind of your notoriety within the industry and amongst your peers as well, is just to make sure that you're sticking to yourself, being true to yourself, and keeping your distillery and its goals at the forefront.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Great point. Yeah.
Yeah, you say that, and it is super important. While we all want to be successful in the distilling uh, industry and run clean and get good yields, everybody wants that. But one of the biggest things that I can tell you is if I could leave with anything, is just making sure you're having fun doing what you're doing, because
Yeah.
this is a product that people enjoy, and it's like, let's enjoy making it. I mean, you can take it as serious you want, and I know it's not a lot of industries are fortunate to do that, and a lot of distilling industries aren't fortunate to do that. But where I'm at now, I'm fortunate enough to be able to at least come to work and have fun and enjoy what I do and what I'm doing. I mean, what's the point of making good bourbon and if you're not going to enjoy it and
Right.
enjoy the people you work around. Just make sure you're having fun. I mean, we all want to make sure that everything's done right, but you can do that and have fun at the same time, and just don't take the fun out of it. Don't
Yeah.
take the fun out of whiskey.
And I know y'all have a lot of fun down there. It is fun to see y'all going on.
It's impossible to not have fun when you come in and you think it's probably going to be a pretty low key day. Denny's coming in here on roller skates, and it's like, what is the deal? And they're hilarious. I mean, they're by far the best people I've ever worked for. I mean, it's just everybody here's like family, and it's just this is what the industry is supposed to be like.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah. Like there's a part of it where you want to be stoic with it, like to try to be, very serious and stuff but like you said, man, it's there to have it's made to have good times with, once it's finally aged up, and then why not have a good time making it?
Yeah.
If you can love your job and have fun doing it, man, it just makes it all the better.
It's absolutely right.
That's goals, man. I mean, totally agree. Before we commence here, Patrick, there was a question for you from Andrew Palomino. I don't know if you can see that, but Patrick, you mentioned you have a list of things you want to do to improve your CIP process. Can you share some of those?
For sure. Yeah. And so we've got a really good CIP process, but like I said, there's a few small things, and this is just me being nitpicky, but the biggest thing that I would have loved, even in my past experience, is, a separate CIP tank to where, maybe we're using maybe it's beneficial reuse from boiler water, just some kind of hot water tank that we could use for sterilization. So right now we have to use our cookers for that process. Like when we're done with them, that's pretty much the flow path. We have to go from the cooker to the fermenter, and that's basically the flow path we have. So if we want to do like a hot water mash or a CIP on a fermentation set leg, we got to put it in that cooker when we're not using it, heat it up, and send it down that line. Right now, it would be great to have a tank that's isolated with hot water. That way we could flush that line in between things, flush individual set lines. There's a lot of things. So separate CIP tank that just has good hot water in it. Extra valving. That way we could isolate each fermenter. Right now, we've got that, but if the fermenter's occupied down the line, we don't have another way to get hot water to it. Like I said, we've got to use the cooker. The separate CIP tank would be a huge benefit. And then CIP drop legs. Traditionally at the end of a fermentation line, you would have a drop leg. That way you flush that line and you could drop hot water, bypass fermentation. That way you're still cleaning that trunk line, which is very important. You want to make sure that you can CIP that line before and after use, and you can't clean it enough. In some cases, you may not have a drop leg, and your last fermenter is your drop leg. But if it's full, you can't really do anything with it. So a lot of little things like that. Just basically piping, valving, and a CIP tank, would be some improvements.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah.
All right. Any last things we want to talk about? Promote, tell me about yourselves. I think I'm so excited. This is our first one, and I just want to thank you guys for participating, and I think this was pretty amazing. So the floor is yours.
Yeah. I mean, we're just waiting. We're playing the waiting game right now. So we're kicking out barrels, and we were just waiting for aged product. And I'm assuming we'll probably be back at the Bourbon Festival this year. We were there last year, and we had our white dog that we were actually selling there, and had a lot of people just tasting the distillate, which was pretty unique in itself, because we understand that not everybody wants to sip on white dog all day, but it was kind of just bringing people along on the story and the path that we're headed down. That's all really. We're just waiting. So hopefully we'll have something soon, and everybody just look out, and we'll be there.
And it was mighty fine white dog. I can say that. Yeah, like that. people really need to start appreciating what white whiskey is, because it's eventually going to turn into the brown stuff.
Yeah,
And,
for
you
sure.
know, I know they say like 60 to 70% of the flavors from the barrel, but you got to have a canvas if you're going to make a painting. So,
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. If you have your distillate doesn't taste good, the odds are it's probably still not going to taste that great.
right.
I mean, you might hide it a little bit, but it's probably not going to come out like a pearl.
No, not at all. But I guess about myself, kind of like what I said earlier, for Oak and Spirit Consulting, it's anything and everything that can involve a distillery, from distillery valuation to editorial, to recipe development, grain procurement if you need that. If you're having issues in your distillery, troubleshooting, optimization. If you're looking to get into experimental side of things, I have a pretty extensive background in that through Buffalo Trace, through Warehouse X and the experimental program. That was always fun. And then also just even down to staffing, like, I know that was a big part of Patrick's thing. Like, you get a distillery and it's like, oh, well, who do I hire? If you need help, I can help with that. And then even, product development, master distiller advisory service, whatever you may need. If you want to, I know this is going to be out on Facebook. If you want to just message me directly at Dillon Livers or email me at Oak and Spirit Consulting at outlook.com. I'm more than happy to take any questions or take any inquiries if you do have them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Same thing for me. I know I forgot to mention that. I mean, if anybody has any questions, it's patrick@potterjane.com. You just shoot me an email. But yeah, Dillon, that would have been so what you're providing is awesome, because just like we talked in the beginning with experience, it's a lot easier now if you have somebody that's trying to start something up. Maybe they don't have the 17 years of operations experience. Well, that's good that you can help them along with that. That's a lot. It'd been nice to have something like that years ago for some of these folks.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man, Hard Knocks is a heck of a university.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is.
Love that.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
One under and more to come. So you guys have a great day, and
All right, you too.
we'll be back in a couple weeks.
Absolutely.
We'll
Have a
see
good
you.
one, y'all.
Bye.
See ya.